Chapter number 5 discusses on productivity management, and also along with that we'll discuss another one content with respect to quality. So quality management and productivity management. So we have four headings, and the first heading here 5.1 is on how you're going to measure how far you're productive. Okay, so we're going to define the index. So the measurement techniques with the help of productivity index will give you how far I'm productive and what are the things I have to follow and other things. Okay. So we don't have much problem content, but still theory is giving importance how far we are going to manage and everything and all. When you say productivity and management of productivity, we are going to measure how effectively the labors are working, the capital is made to work, capital in terms of equity capital or debt capital, made to work, where I'm getting the materials and other things and all, how the energy is utilized. See, nowadays we are going for green fuel, solar power, solar, green fuel, okay, and how everything put together is converted into outputs. So, in short, I can mention this is input process to get output. Okay. So, how I'm utilizing all the inputs together and what process I'm utilizing it so that I'm getting the finished goods. Usually, in operations management, will not use the term finished goods because it need not be the finished goods. It's part of the finished goods also involved in the process. Okay. So especially we'll focus here on how you are going to maximize the result while minimizing the waste and also while minimizing your efforts. Okay. Actually, I discussed one more now. When we go for trying to minimize the waste or minimizing the effort, we should not minimize the quality. That's why productivity management is linked with quality management. Okay. Which concept we follow here is how it's going to be helpful for production system and how we are going to evaluate with the help of this. For example, if we go for Mahindra and Mahindra, it's introducing so many SUVs. So how effective is that? Okay. When we talk about index, actually the heading is index, but before that we need to have something called as performance indicator. Why we need to have this performance indicator means we need to know how the performance is done through this input output comparison. I give this much of input, okay, number of units of input, how much I'm getting as output. Okay, this is how the performance indicators has to be designed. So we have as this as a management tool which is helping us to control and planning future operations of the enterprise. So usually what we do is we raise a question and we find a solution always. Okay, if we want to do something, we raise a question and find a solution. One second. Actually, sorry for that. I have to technical error. I need to start from the beginning. Okay. So chapter number 5, discussing on two management here. One is related to productivity and another one related to quality management. How are you going to measure how far my organization is productive? Okay, which means we are talking about the efficiency, how far we are efficient. So we have four headings, and the first heading is dealing with how we are going to measure this one. And the measurement technique we use here is with respect to index numbers. Index numbers, nothing comparison of ratio. We'll have something in the base here. Probably that might be the price or quantity or whatever it is. Okay, it can be anything. And with this base here, what is the current year's position? So this is how the index number will be defined. Index nale or ratio da. Okay, this is a particular ratio because always this base here will be fixed. Okay, and this current year will be changing. Okay, so when you talk about productivity, ultimately we are talking about production, process, etc. So some input is given and some process is taken over and we get as the output. So usually we will not use the word called as finished goods, we use the term called as output. The input can be in any form, labor, capital, materials or energy. I put all these together. Now my intention is how much I have to utilize this one is not the thing. How much each and everything is effectively utilized is the content here. Okay. Are utilized to convert this into outputs. So my intention throughout this productivity management will be how I'm going to maximize the result. What do you mean by maximizing the result? How far I can make it more effective. Probably I'm effective only for 70%. Okay, I'm not talking about mission's efficiency. Okay, I thought to discuss this one. What do you mean by effectiveness and what do you mean by efficiency? Okay, When we say the word effectiveness, usually we'll talk this with respect to tangible things. When we say efficiency, we'll talk this with respect to management wise. Okay. So when we say management, it's something, it's intangible. In a board of directors or the management skill base panni, engineer or skill base panni. If you talk about Mahindra and Mahindra, who is the main person over there? Anand Mahindra is the chairman of the group. That's different. But we have this person called as engineer. Okay. So here when we talk about maximizing the result, we are not talking about one raw material or capital or something like that. Put together how they are being managed as the maximizing the result and while minimizing the waste and also the effort. But at the same time, we should not minimize the quality. That's why, apart from productivity management, we'll be discussing on quality management also. That's why we have this topic, productivity management and quality management. So, what's the guiding concept here is it helps manage production systems, and through this, we evaluate how far we are successful. So we need to have a performance indicator, and this performance indicator was a need for having this performance indicator because it will know what are the changes we are taking throughout. So from input to output comparisons. Okay. So we use this as a management toolbox. So it will assist in controlling and planning future operations. Usually, when we go for management, not only in this area, here we are defining this is the problem and this is the solution. Usually, when we talk about management, usually in operations management, talking about optimality, we'll discuss how the resources and factors of production be utilized efficiently. Okay, for what? To maximize the output and obviously to minimize the cost. That's about optimality. That optimality here in this context is defined as efficiently. Okay, effectivity of management and efficiency of how far you're going to use the resource. So it is faced from the beginning of the industrial era. So how it has been solved? We have faced so many industrial revolutions. Probably if you go for Indian economy, we can talk from 1947 or 1950 to 1991 as one era. Okay. அதே இந்த part break பண்றோம்னா this is where completely government was taking over the control. After this only you got this concept, might be knowing LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. After that, many organizations are privatized. Okay, so we had a fast growth, and especially after 2010 or 2015, we can say we are very fast growing. Okay, மற்ற countries கம்பேர் பண்ணும்போது ஜிடிபில இருந்து நம்ம தான் அடிச்சு தூக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம் இப்போ. அந்த அளவுக்கு ஸ்பீடு போயிட்டு இருக்கு. So how far this can be resolved? So if this is a question, because of industrial revolution, we have come across many things. Social, technological, scientific developments. We have invented new machines, new technologies, new methods, especially for what? To minimize the wastage of men, materials, and machines, and also economic systems have been changed. So to resolve this one, we need to undergo all these things. It's not just a small job, like it's a very lengthy work. Okay, generation by generation, it moves on. Now to define the productivity index, usually we define P for productivity, which is nothing but a ratio. Ratio means it's taking numerator by denominator form. In the numerator, you will measure the outputs, the value of goods you produced. Okay, measure the outputs, the value of goods you produced. And in the denominator, you take the input. In the input, எவ்வளவு output. That's what the relative measure is talking about. Ratio not in the relative measure. In the input எவ்வளவு output கிடைக்கும். Okay, so this is the output and input. When we talk about input, yes, we know we include raw material, machinery, workers' time, power, efforts, imagination of entrepreneurs. Probably at one time you might be saying this as innovation, one time you might be saying this as creativity. Okay, you remember this one innovation we were discussing. Okay, class attend பண்ணலாம் தெரியலனா. Innovation, creativity, and invention, everything put together is innovation. We are discussing digital strategy under SF. Okay. And usually we discuss this with respect to unit of input. Okay, when we talk about productivity index, see, okay, let me go this way. Might be this example might be looking very silly, but you'll understand in a better way. ரொம்ப easy புரிய வைக்கலாம் முடியும். I'll give you 10 rupees and you buy 5 chocolates. Okay. Okay, I give you 10 rupees, you buy 5 chocolates. What is the cost for chocolate? And I don't want the value. How you do it? How you do it? What is the cost? 10 rupees. Value. What is the amount you have? Sorry, what is the number of chocolates you have got? 5. Why you divide this by 5? You get 2 rupees per chocolate. Likewise, and in the process, in the machining process, I'm feeding like 500 units of cotton. பஞ்சு இருக்குல்ல, பஞ்சு மரத்துல இருந்து பஞ்சு எடுத்துட்டு காட்டன் ஃபீட் பண்றோம். Okay. How much, probably if I pay, probably instead of 500 units, let me take 500 kgs. Okay, அது எப்படி நீங்க unitsல measure பண்ணுவீங்க? So let me take 500 kgs. You are making that as twines, thread மாதிரி. Okay, yarns or threads like that. And you get some, again in kgs I measure it, you get 5 kgs. Okay, so how much? When you divide by 500, you'll get it for 1 kg. Am I right? When you divide this by 5, I'm getting the cost for one chocolate. That's what it mentions here. I'm getting a unit of output. For 1 unit of, sorry, input. For 1 unit of input, how much I'm getting? If you do this calculation, what you're getting? You're getting the value as 2. What is this 2? Per chocolate cost. If you find this value, what is this? What is the value I'll get? 0.001 I get. 0.001 output for 1 kg. Am I right? Per kg. See, when you divide by the number of inputs in the denominator, if you divide it, you'll get for per unit. So, per unit of input, what is your output? That's about the productivity index. So, if I talk about a unit of input, I may talk this with respect to one worker. Okay, I may talk this with respect to 1 hour of labor time. The issue is not number of workers. Sometimes you go for number of workers, sometimes put together will convert to hours, labor hours. Okay, sometimes it can be 1 ton of raw material, sometimes it can be 1 kilowatt of electricity and so. Okay, so usually we take this as a key factor first. So we need to know how far we are economically growing. Actually, when we talk about this concept with respect to productivity and productivity management, whenever organizationக்காக மட்டும் பார்த்தாலும் on a complete economical system, and take this as one concept that all the organizations are putting their hands. இந்தியாவோட growth economically எவ்வளவு இருக்கு? So அந்த angle பார்க்கும்போது it's considered completely in the economic act. Okay, even though we are talking in an operational angle. So, yes, please note, higher the ratio, greater is the productivity. Yes, right? The same amount of output is obtained with lesser inputs, maybe one case in different cases. Or the same quantity of production is obtained with larger quantity. Okay, the same quantity of production is obtained with larger quantity. I have these two cases where if the ratio is higher, then productivity is higher. Okay, tell me when the ratio will be higher. If the numerator is greater than denominator, obviously the ratio will be higher. Am I right? See, numerator by denominator. If it is 3/4, it will be higher, or if it is 5/4, it will be higher. Comparatively. If you compare, this is less than 1. If you compare, this is greater than 1. So, obviously, this is higher. See, denominator is same. What happens to the numerator? Instead of 3, I'm getting 5 outputs. See, denominator is 4 units only. Here also 4, here also 4. First case also 4, second case also 4. But what happens to the numerator? I'm getting 3 units and 5 units. When I talk about 3 to 5, I'm increasing, which means the ratio is increasing, which means my output is increasing, which means my efficiency is increased. Okay, so the same amount of, this also happens, the same amount of output which is obtained with lesser input also matters here. Probably, I'm not considering 4 here. Please pay note here. Not 3/4, but you see 3/3. What happens? See, 3/4 gives you the value less than 1. What is 3/3? It gives the value 1. So, if I change the denominator also, what happens? My ratio increases. Okay, so for this you can take like instead of 3/4, you are taking 3/3. So, what you are doing? The same amount of output. How much output you get? 3 units. 3 units. But what happened? Inputs are reduced. The same quantity of production is obtained with larger quantity also. See, for example, 3/4, or you can take it as 5/4. Okay. Instead of 3/4, you can take it as 5/4. Obviously, this is also increased. Numerator மாத்துங்க, denominator மாத்துங்க, increase ஆகிற மாதிரி இருக்கும். அது என்ன பண்ண முடியுமோ? Okay, this is often asked, that's why I'm going in detail. So, how you calculate the ratio with one input? Okay, so far we were discussing the productivity index as P is equal to O by I. This is overall input put together. Now my intention is I'm not going to go for the overall input. I'm going to calculate with respect to one input. For example, I'm going to talk about only about labor productivity. When I talk about labor, how I talk? Measure the number of hours they have spent together in a number of workers. So in the numerator, what is the output? quantity of goods produced. Output is the quantity of goods produced. What should be the denominator? Because I'm talking with respect to specific input, the denominator will be number of workers max. If I am utilizing mission, it will be mission hours. If I'm talking about the area use, it will be floor area. Okay. If I'm talking about power, it's going to be kilowatts or whatever it's. Okay. So importance, suppose a higher standard of living helps to control information. These are not normal economic angle only. Stronger national economy will be moving. Okay. Highlights, yes, please highlight. Efficiency in industrial production to be measured by some relationship. This some relationship usually happens between outputs and inputs, because what type of efficiency we are talking about in industrial production? Okay, we are not talking about AI and all. We are talking completely about industrial production. We might be utilizing or we might be applying the different technologies. That's different, but complete is about industrial production. So we'll talk about what's the relationship existing between output and input. And the increase in productivity is the key to prosperity at all levels. Probably I cannot say production or operation department is working only at this area. So you remember in SM we have gone for the three tier structure. This is the top management, this is the middle management and bottom management. Bottomல வரும்போது ஒரே ஒரு டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் தான் operations department. அதுக்காக நம்ம ஏன் வரி பண்ணணும்னு சொல்ல முடியாது. When you talk about productivity, you have to talk about all levels. You can see we are not talking about production or operation or process. We are talking about productivity management. So each and everything has to be involved here. Okay. And it refers to a relationship between the result and in what means you are employing workers or whatever it is. And it's more specific between the product and the factors of production. What's the factors of production? Men, material, labor. Okay, we'll call L for labor. Okay. Land, capital, etc. Okay. Nature of relationship, quantitative in nature. It's a ratio of what is produced to what is required to produce. Please highlight this one. Okay, you may expect this as a one-word question, objective question, expect one. And it measures the economic soundness. Okay, that's about this one. We'll go for productivity index. So we are utilizing this as a tool, management tool or a device. It expresses in terms of ratio between the outputs and inputs and is prepared by comparing the volume of the outputs with the labor employed on that job. Yes, please highlight on that job. Okay, sometimes we might be using that for the whole organization or sometimes for that particular job I may be using, because we want to know the productivity index for a particular process, a particular job. That will be very helpful because most of the time you have to talk about bottleneck capacity. நீங்க full process பாத்தீங்கன்னா bottleneck கூட ரொம்ப productivity கம்மியா இருக்கிற மாதிரி தெரியும். அப்போ I may be misguided because of that. So that has to be taken for importance. Okay. Importance, yes. Definitely to beat the competition. I know I need to know how far I'm productive. It's a guide to the management. So when we talk about the management, we are talking about the three levels. So for the top level, they will set strategic goals. Okay. They will know how far I have to allocate for this one. Efficiency அது கம்மியா இருக்கு என்ன பண்ணலாம் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணணும் இன்புட் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணுங்க ஓகே இன்புட் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணா ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா அவுட்புட் வெளியே வரும் ஓகே அந்த மாதிரி என்ன பண்ணலாம் and benchmark standards against the competitors. What do you mean by benchmark standards? I'll fix a standard. Okay. Actually, benchmark usually will be compared among my organization only. Okay, probably process to process. For example, I'll take some 10 points as standards. Okay. I'll try to compete with the 10 points with my own operations. Probably last month I sales in the month sales coming. So this is how it will be dealt up. Usually benchmark standards will be fixed, not comparing with other organizations. Within my organization only I'll fix. So I'm fixing all these 10 points. Probably I'm talking this with respect to hourly rate or anything like that. So a number of hours I'm using for production. If I'm doing it for 5 hours, for example, I'm trying to reduce it for 4 hours, yes, I have reduced. Okay, which means I have reduced that standard. Okay, they'll go for next level. They'll go for next level. They push one level extra. Okay. So benchmark standards against the competitors, why we use here is we need to fix the standards so that the competitors should not compete with me. This is what you call as being rare, gaining competitive advantage. Okay, அந்த மாதிரி நீங்க fix பண்ண மாதிரி plan பண்ணுவீங்க. Then next goes with respect to middle level. See, top level, usually the top level management will set the strategic goals for defining, crafting the goals and all. But whatever, when we talk about the middle level, they are the intermediaries. So you remember? So this is the bridging gap management. Okay, so they will monitor how far the department is performing, how they are identifying the inefficiencies, and how they are motivating the teams to meet the production. So, and when we talk about lower level, they'll be focusing one. Lower level is the particular department working with respect to their operations day to day, daily activities. So they'll be improving daily operations, streamlining the workflows, coaching teams to boost individual performance. Then we have to go for planning and also administration. When we go for planning, they'll go for planning for the future. And then the different inputs are useful. See, now the technology is becoming so absolute. We are using so much of AI nowadays. So if this is the situation in another 2 months, it's going to be a complete change. We need to, there must be a change now. Okay. In the case of India, which means I'm an adopted to India. Okay, that's about planning. Okay. Actually, it's giving relative benefits because it's not one input I'm using different types of inputs. Because of different inputs, I might be getting more benefits out of them. Okay. For example, if I'm talking about raw materials, in the raw material, I'm a table manufacturer, furniture manufacturer. So far, I was using steel or iron, இரும்பு table இருந்தது, இல்லைன்னா wooden table இருந்தது. Nowadays, it's completely becoming plastic and other things we are using it. Okay, wood is not completely wood. It's like plywood and other woods, and we have aluminiums and all nowadays used. So, if you use controller, different inputs might be used. Okay, and administration is over a period of years, how far we have developed. It should not be the same level, have to develop in some way or the other. And this individual, yeah, you can please highlight. What we do here is when we go for defining productivity index, we talk about specific index because when we talk about specific index, we'll know how far this is the tool useful for the management. Okay, so தனித்தனியா பார்த்தா better. Labor தனியா, productivity தனியா, raw material தனியா, நான் தனித்தனியா பார்த்தது better. Okay, so probably if we talk about labor side, how we are bargaining with labor leaders, how they are forming the trade unions, and how the government is considering the labor disputes. And we have the labor laws and all what's right. Okay. Third point, shall I take over the third point? It's an indicator of progress. Yes, how far I am progressing here. Okay, how far I am effectively doing my management work. So, how far it's seeking better, cheaper, faster, and safer ways I can manufacture my products or deliver my services. I'm not going line by line. And maximum utilization of not the resources, please highlight scarce resources. Okay, you see, this is how you can easily write the theory content on OM. Don't write just resources, write scarce resources. That's a helpfulness. Okay. So when we talk about utilization of the resources, obviously when we talk about OM, we are talking about optimality, so maximum utilization of resources. But here, when we talk about productivity management, we are talking about maximum utilization scarce resources. Okay. So it offers goods at the lower price, lowest cost, probably to offer. Productivity emphasis maximizing resources used to ensure customer satisfaction. How far I can utilize it. So it will improve our efficiency and reduce worker fatigue to better planned layouts and other things. And obviously, on an economic aspect, it's a key to national prosperity. So we are directly dealing with GDP. Okay, I'm not going line by line. It's directly dealing with the GDP macroeconomic factors and prosperity to labor also. So usually I'll be saying this concept. We have this concept here: make in India, make for the world. Okay, get what we make in India, make for the world. We have this FDI policy, foreign direct investment policy, falling under FEMA. What the current status is, you bring the factory inside. Okay, we நாங்க இடம் கொடுக்குறோம். Okay, labor நாங்களே கொடுக்குறோம். You use a technology. That's about make in India, make for the world. You manufacture here and you take all over the world from here itself. Transportation, India வந்து எல்லா ஆங்கிலும் transport இருக்கு. And if you go for the geographical map, India is this way. Here we have Indian Ocean. Okay, Bay of Bengal, Arabian Ocean. எல்லா சைடும் sea தான். எந்த பக்கம் போனாலும் transportation செம்ம easy. And if you go this side, obviously, probably this side you have to go for by trucks and air cargos now. Okay, transportation is not a big deal for India because we can manage the transportation. And only thing is, on the transportation, கொண்டு போறதுக்கு infra தான் எல்லாம் அதை நம்ம develop பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். Okay, so you develop a factory in India, you manufacture, you bring your technology inside. Okay, we give you land, we give you people. Okay, you make in India and take it to anywhere from India, make for them. Okay, இந்த மாதிரி இருக்கிறனால தான் லேபரர்ஸ்க்கு எக்கச்சக்கமா வேலை கிடைக்கும். See, earlier days you might have checked from your own personal family or one step cousins or something like that. எப்படி இருப்பாங்கன்னா ஃபேமிலியில ஒருத்தர் ரெண்டு பேர் ஃபாரின் போயிடுவாங்க. Okay, probably if you go some 10 years back again, they'll go to foreign, probably they'll settle there itself, they'll not come back. வர முடியாது அங்கெல்லாம் போனா. வர முடியாதுன்னா their lifestyle will be totally different here. You'll get settled over here. ஆனா இப்ப அதெல்லாம் பாக்குறதே இல்ல. நிறைய பேர் ஃபாரின் போறதே கல்ச்சரே மாறிச்சு. Because everything is available in India itself. ஓகே. என்னதான் நீங்க ஃபாரின் போயிட்டு அப்படின்னு சொன்னாலும் பீஸா தான் டெய்லி சாப்பிடுவீங்க. பரோட்டா சால்னா சாப்பிட முடியுமா? If you talk to any person who have returned from foreign, they're just going to stay for 2 or 3 months in India. எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு 2 3 பேர் டெய்லி பரோட்டா சால்னா தான் சாப்பிட்டுருக்காங்க. ஏன்னா அடுத்த 2 வருஷத்துக்கு நாங்க வர முடியாது இந்தியாவுக்கு. See, I'm not talking only the culture, everything is different. Okay. Now it's all available in India itself. என்னன்னா ஒரு difference வந்து the pay scale is different. When you go over there, the pay scale is different, and when you stay here and work for them, the pay scale is different. என்ன ஆயிட போகுது அங்க போய் உட்கார்ந்து செலவு பண்றதுக்கு அந்த செலவு இந்த கட் ஷாட் தானே அங்க போகும் அப்படின்னு நினைச்சுக்கலாம். Okay. Okay, so prosperity to labor is also there. So we have this labor productivity here. Okay. So because of this labor, probably the working conditions are being regularized, better wages are being provided and salaries are provided, and not only that, better welfare activities for laborers are also provided. And apart from this, we have other uses. Probably it's boosting profits. We can maintain proper reserves, and the industry expansion can be planned, and also modernization of the industries can be planned. Goodwill also is there. Okay, probably well-paid staff, higher profits, and other things are also. And yes, we are becoming competitive in exporting. Okay, whether it's from agri to any technology-based services, everything we are ready. Almost நீங்க எந்த சர்வீசஸ் பாத்தீங்கன்னா automobile industry or any industry, we can say வேர்ல்ட்ல 6th பொசிஷன் 7th பொசிஷன் 3rd பொசிஷன் 4th பொசிஷன் இப்படிதான் இருக்கும். நீங்க சும்மா செக் பண்ணி பாருங்க. மஹேந்திரா இஸ் ஐ திங்க் இட்ஸ் 6th பொசிஷன். கம்பேர்ட் டு டொயோட்டோ, கம்பேர்ட் டு டெஸ்லா அண்ட் ஆல் இஸ் கமிங் இன் 6th பொசிஷன். நீங்க கேட்கலாம் மேம் ரோல்ஸ் ராய்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கே மேம் அதெல்லாம் கம்பேர் பண்ணியா? சி we are not exactly talking about high-end models. Rolls Royce are high-end models. Like high-end models which fit at next level models இருக்குல்ல அந்த மாதிரி வரும்போது most of their companies, not only for automobiles, they are coming between this 1 to 10 positions. Just leave a first 3 position. Either it will be 4th to 10th position. Okay, they are somewhere placed. Okay, not only in that case, even in the list of billionaires and millionaires. Okay. Shall I take over? Measurement of productivity. Yes, this is a very first step how we are going to manage and control the organization. Probably you may expect this as a post line. Management is the first step in managing and controlling an organization. Discuss. அப்படின்னு கேட்பாங்க. ஓஎம்ல மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் சொன்னா என்ன மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் பத்தி பேசுறோம்? We will not talk about strategic management. We talk about productivity management. Operations management தானே. Okay. So the productivity or the performance may be related to various inputs and what are the output factors, and it can be measured in 2 ways exactly. One is, please make a note, first one and second one, somewhat may look similar. For per unit of labor, what is the change in output? This is how we can calculate, this is how we can measure. Or for per unit of output, what is the change in input? Okay, if I increase per unit of input, please highlight, if I increase per unit of input, what is the change in output I get? Instead of using 500, see, basic calculations, 500 kgs of cotton, where I get 5 kgs of thread, twine making process. If I use per unit of input, 1 unit of input only, it's not 1 unit of 1000, 1 unit of input, which means what, instead of 500, I'm using 501. What is the change in output unit? There should be some change. Okay, 1 kg can change in second angle, change in input when you go for referring per unit of output. How are you measuring the output? 5 kgs. Now you change 1 unit of output. See what's the content here? You change per unit of output. So how much change you are making here? Instead of 5 kg, you are taking 6 kg. For how much change in input you need? எவ்வளவு input போட்டா 6 kg கிடைக்கும். Okay. In the first one, what you are doing? I am giving this input 1 kg extra. What's the output I'll get? In both angles you can measure. Here probably this angle will be helpful. 500 கிலோக்கு 1 கிலோ போட்டா காட்டன் எவ்வளவு வரப்போகுது? 500 கிலோக்கு 5 கிலோ காட்டன் தான் வருதான், த்ரெட் தான் வருதான். So sometimes this might be helpful. Okay. So here we are discussing the change in the performance with respect to the corresponding output, but here we are discussing with respect to corresponding input factors. See, when you use the term input. Whatever input is running, please include input factors because there are so many inputs. Men, material, labor, everything put together. So you should not write it as simply input. Okay, I have checked it out. Factors. Okay, so we can just have a look on this. Indices for productivity. Let me continue. So far, we are discussing with respect to productivity, then productivity management. Now, only we are going for indices of productivity. Okay, so it implies how far you are using the standards for each input factor in terms of the output. Probably where the standards are not in use, productivity can be measured only when we go for conversion into units of work. Okay. If you're not using the standards means what? You're going to value this in money? I don't know. You're going to value this in terms of number of units? I don't know. Okay, you don't have any proper standards in use, then what we do? We convert this into units of work as you think as it can be done. Okay, நீங்களா என்ன மாத்திக்கிறீங்களோ அதான். See, I was using that 5 divided by 500 for cotton thread. ஆனா cotton threadல மெஷர் பண்ணாங்க மாட்டாங்க. எதுல மெஷர் பண்ணுவாங்க? இந்த yarnல மெஷர் பண்ணுவாங்க. செண்டுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க, நூல் செண்டுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. லைக் சுத்தி ஒரு பால் மாதிரி வரும் நூல் செண்டு யான். அந்த மாதிரி ஆங்கிள் எத்தனை யான் எத்தனை ஸ்பிண்டில்ஸ் இப்படி மெஷர் பண்ணுவாங்க. Okay, so it will go this way. So productivity can be measured by dividing the output of by the performance of each input factor. So productivity is equal to O by I. Okay. So usually we use these well-known productivities. If we talk about man hour, see this question is often asked upon, either as objective question or they will ask you to write the indices of productivity. I'm full content எழுதிருங்க. Even this one and the earlier page what we are discussing. Okay. Please try to have the full content written. So what's the input here? Man hour. So what will be the denominator? Total man hours. Numerator units of work. Actually, when we talk about production, this is a widely used index. Okay, this is a widely used index. When we go for productivity with respect to rate of return on capital employed, return on investment, here we have to go for checking capital employed. Please highlight, we should not check with units of output, you have to check with net profit. Okay, probably you have to try to remember the factory cost sheet and all. Factory cost, admin cost, everything will be included. At last, you go for cost price. அதுக்கு பிறகு profit entry பண்ண பிறகு தான் நீங்க sales போவீங்க. Because when we talk about capital employed, we have to talk about at the last point how much you're getting. Okay, and see what do you mean by return on investment is how far probably capital growth and also revenue growth. When I talk about capital growth, I have to talk about bonus and growth of the shares and all. When I talk about revenue growth, I have to talk about dividend only. அந்த டிவிடன் எங்க எடுப்பீங்க நெட் ப்ராஃபிட்ல இருந்து பார்க்கணும் progression of profit. Okay. So actually when we talk in this way, it's actually a valuable and widely used guide also, like because many times we use it. Then use of financial ratios. Yes, sometimes we go for taking the labor cost with respect to value addition. Sometimes we go for the overall factors. When we talk about overall factors, we use the term called as conversion cost. Okay, in the product வந்து convert பண்றதுக்கு எவ்வளவு காஸ்ட் எல்லாம் நான் செலவு பண்ணேன். So this is about conversion cost. Other partial productivity measures, manpower productivity with respect to number of worker or man hours used. In the numerator, we can take value of output of goods or services, not in number of goods. Instead, we can take it as value of outputs. I can take it as unit or value. It depends on. Okay. Likewise, if I talk about materials, in the denominator, unit of materials, and in the numerator, it is value of goods. Likewise, capital assets employed. Here also value of output of goods. Okay. It's not capital employed, it's capital assets employed. Machinery அதெல்லாமே வரலாம். And energy, cost of energy and value of output. இது தவிர என்னென்ன யூஸ் பண்ணலாம்னா இன்சூரன்ஸ், டாக்ஸிங், அட்வர்டைஸ்மெண்ட்ஸ் everything can be utilized. If you put all these measures together, you'll call something called as total productivity measure, where you take the value of labor, capital, materials, what are the inputs you're using, everything will be utilized. Is it okay? We'll go for, let me finish with this content, okay? We'll go for productivity improvement techniques. Probably we'll take the help of computers. Okay, we call this as computer aided design. If you go for technology based, so it can be called as CAD technology, or we can call this as computer aided manufacturing CAM, or we can also call this computer integrated manufacturing system SIMS. Often repeated for one word questions. Okay. How do you characterize this? I'm going for line balancing. What do you mean by line balancing? Means probably just like a small idea on line balancing. Totally for the process to become output. I feed the input in the process, either machine or whatever it is. Either I put it in machine or with the help of workers I do whatever it is. Input is converted to output. I'm taking 42 seconds. Okay. I do something called as a scheduling process where scheduling means I'll go for sequencing of activities. First in the activity done, second in the activity done, I'll go for sequencing of activities. Okay. What I have to do is I have to define the workstations. What do you mean by workstation? Means see for each and every activity, if I talk about conveyor belts, okay, the car assembly. Here will be one workstation, here will be another workstation, here will be another workstation. Okay. If a belt is standing here for some 5 seconds, ஒரு வேலை பண்ணணுமோ ரெண்டு மூணு வேலை சேர்த்து பண்ணலாம் ரெண்டு மூணு வேலை சேர்த்து பண்ணலாம் அந்த see sequence of operations law operation A B C all the three operations will be done over here itself in how many seconds 5 seconds. If I go for D activity, E activity, F activity, G activity, it's standing here for 10 seconds. All the four activities will be carried over for 10 seconds itself. Okay, so the workstations will be defined. This defining the number of workstations needed and what are the activities to be put where is what we call as the line balancing. We have that problem also to discuss in the next class, the line balancing problem. So when we go for this line balancing, because we are using computer aided design, we call this as automatic line balancing. How the machine loading has to be done, scheduling, sequencing and all, and how we are going to go for taking over the inventory control is automatically done and the inspection is automatically done. Okay, probably if we talk about EOQ models, when you are going to order the quantity, when it's going to reach the reorder level, we have to have the buffer stock. Okay, buffer stock மேல எப்போ reorder level வருதோ அப்போ reorder பண்ணி வச்சுப்பாங்க. Buffer stock எப்பவுமே இருக்கும். Okay. Next is if you talk about employee based, whenever you talk about employee, you have to talk how you are going to remunerate him. Okay, incentives. It can be financial in nature, this is monetary value, or non-financial. Probably you promote him or you give some credit for the job. Okay. At individual level, also it can be done at group level. Employee promotion can be given, job designs or job enlargements or job enrichments or job rotation can be done. Yes, fourth one beautiful point. Workers can be made to participate in decision making. Not only that one, we can form quality circles and small group activities also. This concept is quite famous for this SGA concept. Small group will be formed, activities will be performed so that we'll know how far the employees are doing well. Okay. See, this is dealing directly with their individual skill and other things. See, when we talk about all individual skills put together, it becomes an organization skill. Okay. Personal development also matters. Probably giving training. Sometimes we have to give them motivated factors and all. Okay. Next was material base. Yes, material, normal, EOQ, supply chain management, everything comes with it. Material planning, control, purchasing, logistics, material storage costs related to how you're going to retrieve it. You remember when I've done this one, FIFO method, LIFO method. Okay, just remember, I'm buying this cotton. Okay, I'm buying this cotton. There's a big godown. I'm feeding all the cotton inside. முதல்ல ஃபீட் பண்ண காட்டன் உள்ள போய் நின்றுட்டு இருக்கும் அது நீங்க யூஸ் பண்ணவே மாட்டீங்க அப்ப என்ன பண்ணணும் முதல்ல ஃபீட் பண்ண காட்டனை எப்படி நீங்க ரிமூவ் பண்ணது பார்க்கணும் that's why we have something called this as cotton openers. Whenever you go for storing the stock over here, there will be another opening here where you can utilize this cotton from the packet. ஏன்னா இதெல்லாம் லார்ஜ் அமௌண்ட்ஸ்ல இருக்கும்ல பெரிய பெரிய மூட்டையா இருக்கும் இட் வில் கம் இன் பேல்ஸ் ஓகே பெரிய பெரிய மூட்டை ஆனா அதோட குவான்டிட்டி எவ்வளோன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு டன் 2 டன் தான் இருக்கும் மூட்டை மட்டும் அவ்வளவு பெருசா இருக்கும் இட் கம் இன் பிக் பிக் பேல்ஸ் பேல்ஸ் மீன்ஸ் இட் பி ஆஃப் திஸ் moon size some 10 by 10 moon size I'm talking in 3-dimensional way. Okay, 10 by 10 room size na another volume wise 10 into 10 into 10 1000 cubic square feet sorry cubic feet will be 10 by 10 by 10 room size. Appo this will be 1000 cubic feet. அப்போ எவ்வளவு இருக்கும் உங்களுக்கு அது பாட்டுக்கு எக்கச்சக்கமா கொட்டி கிடக்கும் then how you are going to utilize it. Okay, that's a major problem. And which source you're going to select it. So who is the supplier and how you're going to do this quality control and all. And is ultimately waste elimination. Then we'll go for D, process based is methodological work. Okay, how far the engineering and work simplification can be done, job design evaluation and job safety can be done, and human factor engineering also has to be considered. Then product wise, you value, you analyze, and this comes as value analysis and value engineering. It is necessary that you have to go for product diversification also. Sometimes you standardize, sometimes you simplify. You go for reliability engineering, product mix and product promotion. Whereas if you go for task based, task is how you're going to do it. Okay. Probably you can go different management styles can be used. So we call this as leadership style, participation style, and all you have. Communication in the organization is there, work culture, motivation, and promotion group activity. Uh, Anybody from CMA Foundation stream? If you're from CMA Foundation stream in the business management, what should be a foundation? Anything like that, management. CMA Foundation, yourself. Okay. You had this concept, business management topic, and the full topic in the outline now. The complete, the leadership side, everything will be covered over there. Everything is covered under this management side. Okay. So that's about this heading now. I think this heading is done. Oh, sorry. Let me finish it off. How much is it? Okay, you can just go to there. I think this is the big heading, I think. Either you can glance marketing now, please. Okay, so what are the tools of productivity can use here, or how, or the question will be how to increase productivity. If you go for the human aspect angle, we can make the workers to participate in the management and decision making. Probably we'll go for joint consultation. Probably if this is the team here, top management, middle and bottom level or lower level. Before drafting or crafting the strategy, they will ask the decision whether it can be implemented effectively by the lower level management. Probably they will give the suggestions that will be considered. It will be seriously considered. சும்மா அவங்க சொல்லிட்டு போட்டோம் அப்படி இல்ல it will be seriously considered. And probably if they find any hiccups in that, again they will ask the bottom management, they'll give suggestions. It will just go like 2 or 3 rounds. Like after that, they'll go for defining the strategy. So this is how they can make the workers participate in the management. Okay. Communication services can be improved. If anything happens wrong, they can properly communicate to the top management. Usually, they'll not go for the very top management. They'll go for one authority prior to them. Or they'll go for the middle management. Okay. And mutual trust and cooperation. Yes, we completely rely. If we go about job procedures, we completely rely. They are doing the job perfectly. They are doing the job correctly. Okay. See, job procedures are correct. Follow பண்ணாலே போதும் எக்கச்சக்கமா cost control effectively can do the management work. And better planning of work, more effective management can be done, and more democracy, independency can be expected, and other things. Okay. Yes, supply of inputs, how the inputs can be managed. Yes, how you can improve the nature and quality of raw materials. How the suppliers are managing the management. Beautiful, isn't it? How I am managing is okay. It's controllable factor. How the suppliers are managing the management. If the suppliers are, see, if the supplier have this policy called as uh, perfect time delivery. Okay, sometimes if you go for any ordering and all, any medicines or something and all, they say that we have ordered 2 days earlier. Any online platform. Okay, usually I go for Net Plus, Netmets. They'll go for a doctor consultation. Then they'll say that we have delivered 2 days earlier. ஒரு நாள் சொல்லுவாங்க 4-5 days பிறகு சொல்லுவாங்க but 2 days earlier deliver பண்ணுவாங்க. See, if they go for zero delay delivery, then my supplier is having a proper policy. I can rely on the supplier. Okay, see, நீங்க ஒரு சப்ளையரை வந்து ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்றதுக்கு முன்னாடி அவங்ககிட்ட என்ன பாலிசி கண்ட்ரோல் இருக்கு probably with respect to quality, okay, quality policy, with respect to delay and zero delay service or whatever it is, delivery service related policy. இதெல்லாம் பக்கம் தான் எனக்கும் பக்கவா தானே right? And proper provision of plant equipment and maintenance is being properly done. How we are going to introduce in case you need more number of measures, how we are going to introduce, because always I cannot rely on the physical workers. Okay, we are going to utilize the manpower and efficiency and capacity of the plant, which means like both man and machines are used. Okay. With respect to methodological and technological aspects, we have to go for something called as work, time, and motion study. This will be dealt separately in chapter 4. Okay, as a separate unit. So, how we are going to do all the studies, work study, time study, and motion study. How the jobs can be simplified or specialized or standardized programs can be implemented. What are the control techniques you will be following? Probably that may be related to production or not only with respect to production and also with cost control and quality control. See, whenever we talk about production, we have to relate with quality also. And production is directly related with quality. நீங்க production நல்லா பண்றீங்களாங்கிறது end result எங்க தெரியும்? Inspection தான் தெரியும். Okay, have to refer that one also. And also, not only that, layout, facility layout, location layout, how you are managing the tools and all, how the materials are handled, and what about the internal transportation system has to be taken into account, and minimizing the waste and defective. Next, we'll go for factors affecting industrial productivity. Overall, it's the same heading, so I'm not going line by line. If you go for the technological aspect, we have to go for degree of mechanization. For example, semi-automatic or fully automatic or 90% automatic. Okay, on the madri. Technical know-how, raw materials also has to be considered. This is all with respect to development aspect. So, what are the principal factors you consider here is size of the plant. Okay, where if you talk about the size of the plant, definitely it's going to have a big impact on the productivity. Whether you're going to go for large scale or small scale. Then R&D investment. So how far you're going to design the product, what's the quality, job and plant layout. So the layout, mission and equipment design, production process. I'm not going line by line. It's the same thing repeated. Production process. What about the power and raw material use? What is the scientific management techniques they use, like simplification, wastage, spoilage, delays, and all, and other contents can be discussed. Apart from this productivity, we can go for individual factors with respect to what knowledge or skill the laborers gain. Okay, how see sometimes we may not have properly skilled workers, but we can make them skilled through training, education, and interest in Is it okay? Aptitude, okay, personality, education matters, experience, you can give proper training, attitude, how far they are willing to work. Okay, probably if you give training also, they may not be willing to work at one point of time. அவங்களால வந்து work பண்ண முடியாது. So you know this VRS concept and all. So they feel like okay, போதும் அப்படின்ட்டு கிளம்பிடுவாங்க. So this type of job can be done. And towards work and the organization, it will give a great experience. We have to go for a comparison. Knowledge and skill without so this is what I was discussing. Knowledge and skill without willingness are waste style, not productive. Okay. Increased knowledge, increased skill, and increased aptitude obviously will increase the productivity. So, how what you can do? How can you motivate them? And if you go for the several factors, sometimes it might be formal, sometimes it might be informal also. Like probably like satisfaction. நீங்க என்னதான் பணம் கொடுத்து உட்கார வச்சாலும் அவனுக்கு job satisfaction இல்லைன்னா கிளம்பிடுவான். Okay, money alone doesn't matter here. Like we say, financial and non financial content. Okay. And we'll go for third content, organization factors, probably delegation and decentralization of authority has to be taken. That's about the organization structure. How far the management is taking their suggestions, participatory management, how far the organizational efficiency is there, what about the proper and personal policies, probably with respect to nominating the persons, employees, how we go for HR job, I don't know, HR selection, placement, promotion, giving job evaluation, training, and all. And apart from this, probably how far we are having that existence of groups with having productivity as a goal. So higher the productivity, probably we are going to get proper salary or proper goodwill and all working in that company. Okay. Next is work environment. Probably physical conditions should be properly taken. Psychologists and human engineers should be properly treated. Usually the factories work பண்ணும்போது ரொம்ப சவுண்ட்னால வந்து usually they'll get irritations. That should be dealt properly. Okay, இப்படி சம்பளம் தரோம் நாங்க வேலை வாங்குறோம் அப்படின்னு இருக்கக்கூடாது. Psychological matters also has to be dealt. Okay, so that's why in many big factories or many big organizations we have something called as safety officer. But I've learned this in CMA Group 1 labor laws. We have this person called a safety officer. We have this person called as welfare officer, and a doctor will be called a certifying surgeon. Certifying surgeon is the person who says that this person is eligible to do the job or not. Okay. And we'll also have, usually we have a doctor at team in many big factories and all. Usually we இருக்கும் ஒரு emergency சேர்க்காம ஒரு first aid இதெல்லாமே இருக்கும், but still we'll have the doctors and teams and all. Okay. And you have to go for proper ventilation, lighting arrangement, how far you're going to go with the safety devices, other things are all will be taken, will be considered. And other related factors is natural factors, physical condition, geographical condition, climatic condition, other natural resources, how far is available to us. Then managerial factors, how far the manager is having the ability and leadership quality. Okay, and how the management is taking for the foresightedness, future எப்படி பார்க்கறாங்க. And government policy also is there, completely goes with respect to rules and regulations provided for the industries and labor laws. Okay. So taxation policy, we have financial and administration policy, tariff policy, production policy, and so on. Yes, this is often asked question. Probably they may be asking you to discuss on production and productivity. Okay. Production is nothing but the sum total of all the results achieved by various factors used together. This is production. Production is a definition. Okay. Productivity is the index. Usually the index the name பண்ண productivity nale it's a measuring tool, measure in terms of ratio. Okay. So production is giving you the actual definition. Okay. Productivity is obviously that definition how it's measured. It's considered as a measurement tool. Okay. So it's the sum total of results achieved by various factors used together, which means what? We are talking about the output alone. Whereas if we talk about productivity, we are talking about the output and the input factors. Output by input. இது வந்து absolute measureன்னு சொல்லுவோம். Okay. இது வந்து என்னன்னு சொல்லுவோம்? Relative measureன்னு சொல்லுவோம். எப்பவுமே இந்த numerator by denominator form வந்தாலே relative measure. Is it okay? More or less other things are not same. Yes, we say that production and productivity are not synonymous. Okay. Generally, when we say increase in production means it does not mean increase in productivity. It's totally different. Increase in production is, for example, this is a beautiful illustration. See, just imagine a factory that produces 1,000 units of a product by employing how many workers? 10 workers working 8-hour shifts. If the factory doubles the production, which means what? Instead of 1,000, they are now producing 10,000 units. But hiring 10 additional workers and extending shifts and production increases. இவ்வளோ இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணாதான் 2000 இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆயிருக்கு அப்படி பார்க்கறது ப்ரொடக்டிவிட்டி. ஓகே, ஜஸ்ட் 1000 to 2000 பார்த்தா இது என்னது ப்ரொடக்ஷன். ஓகே, for this increase we have two criteria. Per unit of increase in output, what is the change in input? Else, per unit of change in input, what is the output? That's relative. Two criteria we have. Okay, so we have to discuss in this angle. So why we need to have productivity techniques? These are all normal only. Okay. Key steps towards increasing productivity, probably we have to develop specific measures. One separately for labor, one separately for power, one separately for capital employed, etc. And when we, even though we consider as separate measures, when we consider as a system, we have to consider as a whole. Okay, put together, complete work. And we develop the methods, you solicit the ideas, so which ideas will be suitable, probably from workers, engineers, and managers and all. Then you study how other firms are having this productivity increasing. Re-examine the work, okay. Which means you take review and control. And you establish reasonable goals. You try to get a clear support from management regarding this productivity improvement and all, and you measure the improvements and publicize them, which means you make it effective. Okay. Continuing. Key techniques for managers, how they do this one. Time your time. Okay. இதெல்லாமே advice பண்ற மாதிரி இருக்கும். Initiate regular breaks. See, if you ask them to work continuously, அவ்வளவுதான் மண்டை உடைச்சு போயிடும். அதனால என்ன பண்ணலாம், கொஞ்சம் break எடுக்க சொல்லுவோம். Okay, initiate breaks. Self-imposed deadlines. Okay, the management may be giving the deadline for the whole department. What we do here is we'll give individual persons individual deadlines. So self-imposed. Probably you they'll be motivated to take themselves. Okay, now motivate பண்ணி நீங்களே எடுங்கன்னு சொல்றோம். Okay. Quit the habit of multitasking. Yes, this is a very wrong reason சொல்லுவாங்க. மல்டிடாஸ்கிங் பண்ணா பிரெயின் வந்து சரியா வேலை செய்யலன்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு சின்ன ஆர்டிகல் கூட இப்ப 2 நாள் முன்னாடி படிச்சேன். டோன்ட் டு மல்டிடாஸ்கிங். வாட்ஸ் மல்டிடாஸ்கிங்? சாப்பிட்டுட்டே டிவி பார்த்துட்டே படிச்சுட்டே ஃபோன் பேசுறேன். எத்தனை பேர் பண்றீங்க? ஆல்மோஸ்ட் எல்லாம் நானும் அதான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். இந்த சைடு இது பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பேன், அந்த சைடு அது பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பேன். நடுவில் தோசை ஊத்திட்டு இருந்தேன். என்ன பண்றது, தோசை பசிக்கிறேன் சாப்பிடணுமே, தோசை கேட்பாள் என் பொண்ணு, நான் சாப்பிடணுமே. Multitasking usually this happens and nowadays with this fast speed lifestyle, multitasking is normal thing like. But recent the doctors ask what you do, ma'am. Okay, so multitasking should be quitted. Okay, this multitasking is different and that multitasking is different. Don't confuse this one and that one. Multitasking here is we do 2 jobs in 2 machines. That should not be done. Okay, usually when we go for audit and all, especially when we go for labor audit and all, we usually check what jobs are being assigned to whom. Okay, here the multitasking about production. Okay, encourage the 2-minute rule. What is this 2-minute rule? Means how far you're going to stay peaceful for 2 minutes. Okay, avoid unnecessary meetings. Beautiful point. சும்மா போய் மீட் பண்ணிட்டே இருக்க கூடாது சொல்லுவாங்க. நான் பாஸ், நான் சொல்றது நான் கேட்கணும், நீ ஃபாலோ பண்றது, நீ இப்ப என்ன பண்ண நான் ஃபாலோ பண்ணணும். சும்மா போய் மீட் பண்ணிட்டே இருக்காதீங்க. விடுங்க அவங்க வேலை செய்வாங்க. That's the theme here. Okay. Unnecessary meeting should be avoided. Okay. Then use the unexpected bonus time, probably extra time they work and other things, Be proactive and not reactive. So all these techniques can be taken by the managers to improve productivity. Okay, it depends on every woman in this now. Yes, ma'am. That's about five. The key aspects of productivity. See, earlier in the topic I was discussing, when we say productivity is not productivity is dealing only with my organization for the whole world. Okay, so particularly when we talk about our own world, we have to go for talking about macroeconomic factors. So when we talk about macroeconomic factors, these are the five aspects. Western analysis, they're all normal. Okay, so political factors, see, we have done already, right? In essence, so I'm not going line by line. Political, economic, social, technological factors, and the environmental factors. Actually, apart from this, we have legal factors also. Okay, legislative angle. It follows from governance and compliance. Okay, so I'm going for next chapter, 5.3. So up to 5.2 is about productivity management, 5.3 and 5.4 about quality. Here we are not going to just talk about quality management. We are going to talk about total quality management. Please highlight this word, total quality management. So I buy the input from where? Raw materials from my supplier. One more input probably I have my own power generation unit. Okay, if I have my own power generation unit, then that's not an issue. I'll get a regular supply of power. Probably if I talk about labor, the HR department has to work effectively. Okay. If I talk about the raw material, the supplier has to supply me good quality raw material. After good quality raw material supply பண்ணாங்கன்னா, definitely my input factors all will put together will give my output quality output. Okay. Now the problem is how do you know the quality the supplier is providing you quality goods? We'll check their policy. We'll check how far they are maintaining their quality policy, how far they are maintaining this quality inspection rules and all. அவங்க இடத்துல சாட்டிஸ்ஃபைடா இருந்துச்சுன்னா நம்ம வந்து ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா இருக்கும் நல்லா தான் இருக்கும் ஓகே ஸோ தட்ஸ் வாட் வி டாக் அபவுட் டோட்டல் குவாலிட்டி மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் தான் இட்ஸ் அ philosophy probably we have to improve the quality and achieve customer satisfaction that's our main thing yes please highlight this definition is a process of continuous improvement one important word at every level of the organization ஒவ்வொரு ஆர்கனைசேஷன் மட்டும் இல்ல ஹோல் ஆர்கனைசேஷனை பத்தி நம்ம பேசும்போது ஒவ்வொரு லெவல் ஆஃப் ஆர்கனைசேஷனும் பார்க்கணும் and it's a center for the entire process in customer in customer satisfaction. So first thing we have to talk about continuous improvement. Second thing we have to talk about how far see every level means every level of employees. So employees involvement. And third, what is your goal to achieve customer satisfaction? Okay, so when we talk about this TQM, it's nothing but Japanese technology. Okay. So what's the scope? It's an integrated organization structure. It's a management practice, a wide variety of tools and techniques we use. Okay, we focus on benchmarking world-class standards, product and service defined, purchasing, everything has to be considered. So basic concepts in TQM is how far the top management is being committed and how they far the support. Both we have to focus on internal and external customers, new customers and also old customers. Then how far the employees are getting involved and empowered. And continuous improvement is what you call as Japanese technology, right? Japanese approach. This Japanese approach is what's called as Kaizen. Okay, அது basically costing and Kaizen costing okay. And you partnership with suppliers. If the suppliers are providing good goods, quality goods, then obviously you're going to make good quality. So you know this concept of GST. If my supplier is paying GST, then probably I'm also paying GST. Then I'm providing service to another person. Okay, he is also paying GST. அப்போ GST வந்து நீங்க என்ன பண்ணிக்கலாம் ரிட்டர்ன் வாங்கிக்கலாம் இந்த கான்செப்ட் வந்து ஜிஎஸ்டில இருக்கிற மாதிரி தான் இந்த பார்ட்னர்ஷிப் வித் சப்ளைஸ் கான்செப்ட் ஓகே எஸ்டாப்ளிஷிங் பெர்ஃபார்மன்ஸ் மெஷர்ஸ் ஃபார் processes. And what are the essential is, yes, see, it's all repeated. Customer satisfaction, leadership, quality policy should be there. Yes, very, very important. Definite quality policy. Okay. Organization structure should be properly defined. Employee involvement should be there. What is the cost for that quality? Okay. Extra additional cost. That's a back addition here. And supplier selection and development is important and recognition and reward has to be provided. What are the principles we follow here is strive for quality in all things. Customer is the creation of quality. Yes, customer is the king. Okay, customer here is the creation of quality. Customer என்ன எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்றானோ அது குவாலிட்டி இருந்தா மட்டும் தான் வாங்குவாங்க, இல்லைன்னா வாங்கிட்டு போயிடுவாங்க. அவ்வளவுதான். He cannot be detailed. Only if quality is given, he can be retained. Customer can be retained. And improve the process and systems. Quality improvement is continuous. Kaizen process will be followed. Worker involvement is essential. Ground decisions and actions has to be taken. That's what we call as management support. Management has to support, right? And encourage teamwork and cooperation. Okay. Elements is more or less the same thing. Team approach, employee empowerment, decision based on facts rather than opinions. Please highlight the third point. It's based on facts rather than opinions. Knowledge of quality tools like we use flow charts, Pareto analysis, scatter diagrams are all we use. We need to check how far they are scattered and how far we can rely on the quality tools. Okay. Earlier, you have in final level you have a quality control limits as well. Lower limit, upper limit. இதுக்கு மேல போனா ஓகே சேஃபர், பட் இது கீழே இருந்துச்சுன்னா நாட் சேஃபர். லோவர் லிமிட் கீழே இருந்துச்சுன்னா குவாலிட்டி இல்ல. அந்த மாதிரி குவாலிட்டி கண்ட்ரோல் லிமிட்ஸ் இருக்கு. ப்ராப்ளம் ஃபைனல் கொஞ்சம் பண்ணாங்க. இட்ஸ் a part of the SCM topic. We have operations management, transportation assignment and all, right? In final, we'll go for strategic cost management paper where we will study somewhat similar like OM paper there. OM costing எல்லாம் சேர்ந்து ஒரு பேப்பர் அப்படி. Okay. Then quality at the source, inclusion of supply as a part of quality improvement program. So our highlights is we are talking about total quality management, which means you are trying to achieve quality at what? On stage. That's very important. And we receive communication. We receive or we face hindrances in communication. So we try to remove the communication barriers to boost integration and cooperation. TQM is, yeah, this is often asked about. TQM, we say it's merely a collection of techniques. No, it's incorrect. It's not only a philosophy work, it's complete a management approach also. Not just by applying techniques we'll get it. Okay, we have to go for continuously improving, then only we'll get it. Okay, so you can please make a note on it. And it's not just a set of tools or techniques because we are using a continuous improvement algorithm. It's not just a technical method because missions வச்சு வேலை செய்ய முடிஞ்சிருமா, inspection தான் ஒரு மிஷினை வச்சு inspect. No, not that way. The employee has to get installed. It's not about using the mission and picking out the defective items. Not that way. Using the mission, you pick out the defective items. But what is the end result? See, defective item has to be reduced. For example, I'm taking a sample of 100 items. Probably, usually when we say in percentage, even the 100 items or 100%, how much it can be defective? 1 to 2% it can be defective, not more than that. அப்போ 100 items எடுத்து நான் செக் பண்றேன்னா 98 items டிஃபெக்டிவா இருக்கலாம். 98 டிஃபெக்டிவா இருக்கக்கூடாது தான் அதுவும். See, the defective range may be fixed up to 2%, but even though should not be defective. Okay, let's say 100 items, no need 100. Let me go for 1000. Let me go for a big sample. If I talk about 1000, so what's the 10%? 100 units, so not 10%, 1%. Okay, 10 to 20 units can be defective. 1% to 2%, up to 2% can be defective. 10 to 20 units can be defective. Now, unit எடுத்து செக் பண்ண defective. Second எடுத்து செக் பண்ண defective. First எடுத்த sample மொத்தமா defective னா what do you think? See, out of 1000, 20 units can be defective. But I'm taking one, checking it's defective. Taking another, checking one, it's defective. அப்போ 10, 15 defective னா நீங்க என்ன நினைப்பீங்க? The lot is not good தானே நினைப்பீங்க. So that should not be done. Okay. So what you can do is, it's not just like using a technical method. You have to make the employees involved and you have to go for finding out. Then cultural change also matters here because when we talk about every level, how far the attitude behaviors will be changing, that also has to be focused. And it's not just operational. It's a leadership commitment. You apply the leadership values. And yes, it's not just profit making, it's satisfying the customers, and not only that, we have to exceed the customer's satisfaction. அவங்க என்ன யோசிப்பாங்க, 10 ரூபாய்க்கு எனக்கு 15 ரூபாயோட worth கிடைக்குதான்னு யோசிப்பாங்க. Yes, obviously that's not bad. Okay, I may be spending 10 rupees, but for the spend of this 10 rupees, am I getting 1 rupee extra or 2 rupee extra? Worth, not in terms of money. That's satisfaction, emotional touching. Okay, that has to be noted. And not just one-time technique. It should be continuously done. And not just applying random techniques, it's a process orientation, which means what? We have to check what is the process, or we have to study on the process. Or just random without technique use பண்ணலாம். No, this is not that way. Okay, you have to completely learn the process and you need to know at which stage we are missing this one. Okay, that's the taking the complete control part. So that's about third topic. Yes, can you please go to here? So just imagine As a customer, I come to your showroom or any factory to buy any product, okay? And I ask you how far you are making quality product. நீங்க சொல்றதான நான் நம்புவேனா? Usually you won't do it, right? நீ சொல்றதா நான் எப்படி நம்புறது? சரி குடு நான் ஒரு வருஷம் யூஸ் பண்ணி பார்க்குறேன். நல்லா இருந்துச்சுன்னா பணம் தரேன். நீங்க ஒத்துப்பீங்களா? Will not do it, right? So that's why we have something called as ISO standard basis. Okay, ஒரு குக்கர் வாங்கினாலும் ISO, ISI, ISO இருக்கான்னு பார்ப்பாங்க. Okay, that seal should be there. Okay. So we are relying on this quality certification. So what do you mean by quality certification is we have to recognize what quality is maintained. So it's established by European Union. First of all, if you talk about ISO, we'll talk about this ISO 9000 certification. Okay. So it's an elaborate and expensive process. It's a recognition. Yes, please highlight. So recognition that meets international standards. Please highlight. Right about important. For quality, please highlight not only for quality but also for safety and efficiency in its operations and okay. And it installs mechanisms like how we are going to go for following everything and all. So when we go for ISO certifications, two main important certifications are 9000 and 14000. ISO 9000 and 14000. ISO 9000 talks about quality management, whereas ISO 14000 talks about how we are minimizing the harmful effects to the environment. See, now we are highlighted with this word called as sustainable development. எங்க பார்த்தாலும் sustainability, sustainability, sustainability. Okay, we are talking about sustainable development. We are talking about green fuel. Okay, everywhere electric vehicles, solar panels, and everything goes on. So, how see, definitely when you talk about industry, factory, manufacturing process, harmful effects to the environment will be there. But the intention is we have to minimize it. See, we are discussing this one, right? Carbon neutral. Mahindra and Mahindra is planning to become carbon neutral in the year 2030. Paris Agreement says you have to enter, you have to make it carbon neutral in 2050. Okay. Carbon neutral இருக்கு, zero carbon emission இருக்கு. Carbon neutral means I emit carbon. I'm not trying to reduce it. But இந்த carbon emission வந்து பேலன்ஸ் பண்றதுக்கு நான் ட்ரீஸ் எல்லாம் க்ரோ பண்றேன் அப்படி பண்றது. Okay. Zero carbon emissionனா which means I will not at all emit. That's why we're going for solar panels and this one and all. Okay, solar panels and green fuel and all. I will not at all emit. அந்த மாதிரி இந்தியா எப்போ நம்ம கமிட் ஆயிருக்கு 2070 will become zero carbon emission country. எப்போ 2017 பாரிஸ் அக்ரிமெண்ட் எப்போ என்டர் ஆயிருக்கு பாரிஸ் அக்ரிமெண்ட்ல என்னென்ன கண்ட்ரிஸ் என்டர் ஆச்சோ அவங்க எல்லாமே வந்து தே ஹேவ் ஃபிக்ஸ் அ டேட் ஸோ பாரிஸ் அக்ரிமெண்ட்ல ஒரு நாமினல் இயர் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க தே ஆர் சேயிங் 2050 will make it carbon neutral and also zero carbon emission but India is taking 20 years extra. ஏன் 20 years extra? Heavy population. Heavy population, not only because of heavy population, so many industries and India is a developing country. Developed country வேற மாதிரி ட்ரீட் பண்றாங்க, developing country வேற மாதிரி ட்ரீட் பண்றாங்க. Okay, so 2070 will become zero carbon emitted country. So we have to see we have harmful efforts, but we have to what minimize the harmful effects. So ISO 9000 is just talking about quality. Quality means what? What is the customer's expectation of the quality? But whereas this 14,000 is heavier in all the aspects because we are worried about anyone. Okay. So similarity, probably we have to go for continuous improvement and other things and all. Just to know more about ISO, it's not just one standard ISO 9000. We have ISO 9001 and we call this as ISO 9000 family. Okay. So it's been recognized and adopted in more than 180 countries worldwide. See, I'm going to go, I'm making this bars and all for construction. The Kambiyalam Pandola Dias Lala. For example, like TMT bars and all we have only for construction. I'm going to utilize this one for my construction, but I'm not constructing here. I'm going to take it outside India. So exporting. Export பண்ணும்போது you'll ask one simple thing. Are you quality certified? Yes, I'm holding this ISO 9000. Okay then. கண்ணை மூடிட்டு வாங்குவாங்க. See, that's an international standard. So this recognition is adopted by how many countries? 180 countries worldwide. So we'll compare here with national standard bodies of those countries. So all the countries will be joined together and we form international standard basis. Okay. So this is dealing with manufacturing, services and government sectors also. When we particularly talk about 9001, So it's most widely adopted standard in ISO 9000. See, ISO 9000 has a group of standardizations. Adala one of the ISO 9000. Okay. So it's a requirement for international business. So if you are exporting means definitely it should be what? 9001 certified. Okay. So demonstrates commitment to quality management and probably diverse and regulatory environments will be there. But obviously if we have 9001 means it becomes a global benchmark standard for quality issues. Okay. Then you have to go for applying for the certification part. You have to file a report. So independent auditors will be there. They'll be giving the complete report and all. You have to file a report. Okay. You can just go through this one. And usually when we talk about ISO 9000, we have five standards. Probably, can you find a picture here? Yeah. We'll talk about five standards. The firstly over here. First is ISO 9003. Okay, I'm going to the innermost side. Okay, first is ISO 9003, particularly focusing only on production. Okay, one step ahead. If I talk about production, procurement, and installation, we then ISO 9002 will be certification given. One step more ahead, design and development along with the three and servicing. This will be called as ISO 9001. Okay, so ISO 9001 seems to be a wider angle, dealing with what? Five aspects. What are the aspects? Design and development, procurement, production, installation, and servicing. நிறைய aspectsல deal பண்ணா அந்த certification is better certification compared to ISO 9002 and 9000. Okay, so this is what discussed over here. Okay, see, 9000, yeah, 9001, design, procurement, production, installation, servicing. So five stages we'll discuss about. 9002, only procurement, production, and installation, only three stages. 9003 deals only with single stage. For all these, you have well-defined standards. Over stage to over standards put them. Okay. 9000 and 9004, if you compare, sorry, this is 9001, you can please make it corrected. 9001 and 9004, if you compare, 9001 is giving the guidelines for selection and use. Okay, please highlight. 9001 is giving guidelines for selection and use, which one you can select and how you can use it. But whereas if you go for 9004, it is giving guidelines for sustainability and how you can go for sustainable assets. இந்த harmful effects நம்பி நீங்க இறங்கலாமா அப்படின்னு பார்க்கறதுக்காக 9004. Is it okay? So, eight quality management principles we follow from ISO 9000 2000 family. A systematic approach to management should be there. Continuous implementation. See, guys, are costing. Okay. See, as I was telling, production management and quality management, you cannot segregate it. It may look like two different concepts, but production management and the quality management are three. Okay. So, actual approach to decision making, mutually beneficial, superior supply relationship, customer focus, leadership, people involvement, and process. So, normal heading, okay. But it's often asked. Then we have to go for revision of standards. Instead of 2000, 9000, 2000 family, we have this latest version, 9001, 2015 family dealing with quality management system. We have this 14001, 2015 family dealing with environmental management system. See, whenever I talk about 14,000, we are dealing with minimization of the harmful effects of the environment. Okay. And we have this ISO, IEC 27,000 on the 2022 information security management systems. Okay. And we have so many extra. இதெல்லாம் உங்க bookல எல்லாம் நானே ஒரு நல்லா இருக்கேன்னு கொடுத்தேன். See, for example, see, you can just have a look. Okay, definitely helpful. So if you go for this one, ISO 13,485 belonging to 2016 family is dealing with medical devices. See, we have quality management system. Quality management system dealing with medical devices. Okay, how to check, right? Probably occupational health and safety. We'll go for ISO 45001 and 2018 family. So we have other so many families also. You just have a look. Probably you may expect 1 or 2 marks from this topic because the fifth topic focus phenomena, especially they are focusing on index, productivity index and partial productivity. They are not asking us a problem. They are asking us a theory content. அப்ப எல்லா index நீங்க எழுதுற மாதிரி இருக்கும். And this one is also highly focused. Okay. I think that's it. That's all for today.